JT Taylor, and this is Dry Snitch. Hey guys, welcome to Dry Snitch, episode number 8. I got my co-host back with us, so hopefully everybody's happy to see her. Everybody's always making the comments. Bring Melissa back on there. So she's here begrudgingly. She made me pay her a lot of money and other favors that we won't get into on the air. Today's going to be a little bit of a turnaround from the video where she asked me all these different questions. This is going to be me asking her some questions, interviewing her basically from the standpoint of, you know, how the wife or the person who's not in jail or in the addiction or whatever feels when they're going through something, or generally in life when they're meeting somebody who is not who they're used to dating or being with, or just unfamiliar with. So Melissa grew up in Riverside and Brookfield, which, if you're from Illinois, you know that's kind of a hoity-toity area where it's pretty what we call vanilla. It's vanilla over there.
And Oak Park's so diverse.
Oak Park is very diverse,
but not.
It's not exactly ghetto.
It's pretty fancy too.
That's for sure. South side of Oak Park is very blue collar and like working class. Where I'm from, the north side is pretty hoity-toity as well. But it's just an element that Melissa wasn't used to. She was, in your own words, you grew up in sort of a bubble, very protected.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she told me one time that her mom used to tell her that when she was out riding her bike, make sure to get off her bike and walk it across the street. And like most kids would be like, yeah, right, I'm not going to do that. Melissa would get off and walk across the street because she truly felt that if she didn't do that, her mom would just know somehow.
Because she knew everything I did wrong. She always found out. I did like 2 things wrong ever, and she busted me out on both because someone saw me and told her, oh, I saw Melissa walking out for lunch today, and I was not allowed to leave for lunch. The one time I did it, my mom knew. So my mom says, walk your bike across the street. I'll walk my bike across the street. Even if my friends were in the middle of the street riding with no hands, I would jump off at every corner and walk my bike across the street.
Did you guys catch that? Melissa did 2 things wrong in her life. Ever. Ever. All right.
I'm not ashamed.
I did 2 things wrong this morning before I got out of bed. So there's the difference in us. All right. So here are your questions.
Just so you guys know, we have not talked about these questions. I have no idea what he's going to ask, just like when I interviewed him. So this is blind.
Yep. I said that. Thank you for reaffirming.
You did say that?
Yeah. Oh. What did you think when I first asked you out?
I don't think you ever asked me out. I don't think you ever really asked me out.
I asked you out several times. I asked you to meet me for drinks one night with a friend of mine.
Yeah, but like not on a date. Like meeting you out with your friend isn't really going on a date or anything. I just thought I was going to hang out with my friend.
Okay.
That night was the night that I decided, like, it's maybe not fair that I'm not giving him a chance, like, romantically.
How did you know that I wanted a chance romantically if I had never asked you out?
Well, because you were trying to get on me.
All right. So what did you think when I was trying to hit on you?
I didn't say hit on you. I said get on you.
Get on you?
Yes.
Okay. What did you think when I was trying to get on you? What was your thought?
Well, that has to go way back. Like,
go back.
We have to go way back. Like, how far back? So, when Jeff and I met, I guess, should I go that way?
Yeah.
So when Jeff and I met, we met at a bar. It's funny because somebody at work asked me today, how did you meet your husband? I'm like, I met him at a bar. It sounds so like not very romantic. And then I have to tell the whole story. So I had a girlfriend who bartended at a bar, and her and I were going through some similar things in life. So I used to go and sit with her, and I'd stay there for hours, and we had friends that would come in, and we'd have like Thursday nights was like our friend night. And Jeff, his cousin, is the owner of this bar. So Jeff and his sister used to go to that bar because they would have like brother and sister night. And
on Thursday night,
his other cousin was going to try to set him up with somebody else. And so I knew of Jeff because our friend was talking about him, but she was also talking about some kind of what this whole channel's about, scary stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Why would you want to get involved with that? Like, I don't know. And anyway, he and I just became friends, like, through default. So we used to text, and I was in a previous relationship, and he had just kind of started a relationship. And so he was very flirty, and I was at the end of my relationship, so I guess I was flirty, but he made it pretty clear. I don't know. I guess he didn't make that clear till later, that even though he was flirting with me, he really, this is going to make him sound really shallow, but it's the reality. He's like, he would have never really pursued a relationship with me at that time because I was way overweight. But then I lost weight, and then he became more and more interested. Well, I think when he was away at jail one time, he realized he was pretty interested. And so that's why I can't really answer the question, because I think that there were so many like steps to us beginning a relationship.
Let me clean this up a little bit. So first of all, my cousin was not trying to hook me up with that friend.
Yes, she was.
No, she wasn't. It was just that, well, maybe she was behind the scenes without my knowledge. The thing was that I had met her friend at the bar when we were there, and I guess her friend was interested and told my other cousin, and so my cousin was like, yay, you know, she was championing that. Okay. And as far as the whole, I wasn't interested because of the weight thing. I asked her out to lunch, and she was married at the time, so we weren't going to be like scandalous, you know, and like it wasn't supposed to be lunch and then go back to some hotel afterwards or whatever. It was truly just lunch, but we went to lunch as friends, and we talked for like 3 hours. Stayed at lunch for like 3 hours, just talking and talking. It was a good talk. So I went to prison shortly after that, and I thought of her a lot while I was in there. I even wrote her a letter while I was in there. So it wasn't just about the weight thing. Yeah, that was, I mean, obviously when anybody's really overweight and then they lose a lot of weight and they're looking way more attractive, then of course you're going to be even more attracted to them. So yeah, that made it, you know, made me more want to, you know,
Get on me.
pursue you. And so I don't know, I was asking, what did you think when you,
I guess like I was saying, like, it's such a hard question for me to answer because there were so many levels. Like, to his point, we went out to lunch as friends. Then we had a second lunch date that I was pretty clear this isn't a date, but I think he knew it might have been at that point. And then I was very resistant because I was afraid of his past, his background scared me. And to his point, one night he invited me out for a drink with him and his friend, and I was at work, and I was like, no, I don't know. And there's more to that. Like, I have social anxiety too, and the whole thought of like parking my car, walking into a strange place, trying to find him, and then he's with a strange person that I don't know. Like, all of that would give me a lot of anxiety. And I remember he met me at my car, he walked me inside, he paid for my drinks, he walked me to my car. Like, he was such a gentleman that night and very attentive. I remember that night thinking, why am I not giving this guy a chance? He's really nice, and he's treating you really nice. And I had been on a lot of dates at the time. I'm fresh out of a marriage, thinking that I'm going to find this relationship so quickly, one that I think I deserve. And I just went out with like a bunch of bozo after bozo after bozo. And I remember thinking, like, give him a chance. So that was probably the first time I decided that maybe we would go on a date. But I would say our first date was probably when we went to the Italian Fest. I feel like that was our first, like, actual date.
Yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah. I know that she was... I remember actually all the way back to that... the date when we went to lunch that time. And... they want to see your eyes.
I'm thinking.
When we went back to that friend lunch, the 3-hour lunch, I remember asking you, hey, if you ever dated somebody like me. It was like, it wasn't even asking you. I think it was, I was talking about me dating somebody else or something at the time. And I'm like, I mean, how would you feel? What would you say? Like, if you were dating somebody with my background, would you ever tell your parents? Would you tell what would you tell your friends? And I remember you saying that, oh God, I would never be able to tell my parents the truth. I'd have to hide it from them, and they would be so, condemning, and they'd judge you, and they would never give you a chance and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow. And I had that stored in the back of my head for a long time, but I'm like, you know what, it is what it is. I think then a lot of people get to know me when they hear my background, and then they see who I am, and I'm not using, and I'm quite a different person than most people would think. All right, so what did you tell your friends and family when they asked about me when we did start dating?
I think that all came in phases. To his point, at first it was like, over my dead body, nobody's going to know his background. So I think I kept it pretty simple. Jeff is somebody that I met at the bar, and, we've been friends for a long time, and, we just started dating. And I think just as I got comfortable with the notion of his past, as I got more comfortable, I guess I'm still not, like, super comfortable with the past. I know he's stated in previous videos how I have a hard time connecting that was my husband. But as I got more relaxed with the idea, I think I was able to open up a little bit here and there. But I think that a lot of people were confused at first. Like, wait, are you two... I remember a lot of that. Like, are you two... And I think in the beginning I was like, oh, no, we're just friends. And then I think at some point I was like, yeah, I guess we are.
She denied me.
I did.
I don't think I knew that, because I would have probably been pretty, like, ouch.
Yeah, but I think I wasn't sure, even myself. Like, I don't think I was denying you, like, trying to keep it under wraps, like, oh, yeah, I actually am dating this guy. No, I don't think it was like that. I think it was more like, yeah, we're just friends, like.
Right, or just checking things out or whatever. Like, yeah, keeping it very light, Well, then, when you knew that things were going to be more, when you thought things were starting to get serious, were you ever tempted to, like, lie about my background?
No, I think the people who knew already knew, and I think I just didn't offer it up until I was ready. But I think I offered it up way sooner than I thought I would.
Okay.
I feel like I definitely offered it up sooner than I thought.
I think it probably helped, and you tell me if I'm wrong about this, it probably helped that we had, believe it or not, we had a lot of, that bar was kind of unusual in that my cousin, who's from Oak Park and went to Oak Park River Forest High School, where all of my friends are from, owns it. And so he's got a lot of our friends come up there to that bar. There's not really bars in Oak Park. Oak Park was dry for like 100 and some years. So you either had to go to Forest Park or a nearby town. Riverside, Brookfield were not really the places we'd go, but when he owned a bar over there, and he's a pretty popular guy. He knows a lot of people, even if it's just surface level. He knows a lot of people, and so they would come there, and so it just so happened that a lot of our friends knew each other, and I think that made things a little bit easier, because they were accepting of me, and my friends they knew what kind of guy I was, so they weren't going to be like, and so it wasn't like when you'd say my name at that bar, everybody'd be like, like he's a bad guy,
Maybe a little.
Okay, maybe a little. All right, so let me see. So how long was it before you finally told anyone that you were starting to have like strong feelings about me? Like, when did you tell your mom? Or
Probably when I told everybody we were going to Belize and Honduras on a cruise. That happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like our first official, I don't know. See, I said our first official date was probably at the
Italian Fest.
But I don't know if we went out again for a while after that. Like, I think I considered that a date, but I don't think we actually started dating until February of the following year. Because that was the summertime.
Right.
And then we started dating really in February, and we went on vacation in April. So I think we went from, let's go on a date, and I think he fell into something else. And I remember I even encouraged it. And I think that we had a little period of, we were still going to go do our own thing, and then we fell back again. And I think that was February. So it was 2 months later that we were serious enough. I mean, it was on that trip that I told you I loved you.
Right. Yeah. It was, I think that I remember something happened. Nothing happened at Italian Fest, but I remember you saying afterwards, like,
I thought he had a horrible time.
You thought I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I thought he had a horrible time. Like,
yeah.
I felt like I'm kind of not like an overly excitable type of a person. Like, you see me here and I'm pretty even and calm, and I'm kind of always like that. And he's not at all. And I was kind of even thinking about that.
Not at all.
I was kind of even thinking about that today. And I was thinking, like, I'm so
opposite.
Like, blah. I'm kind of blah. And I was thinking, like, how do we even, like, I guess in the back of my mind, even now he's my husband, and I know how much he loves me, and he knows how much I love him. I was thinking, like, does he really even like me?
Yeah, I think I like you.
Because I'm so blah. I was telling them how he wakes up singing, and I'm like, I have horns coming out of my head in the morning, and he's singing Go Cubs Go.
Oh, that was in 2016. Not anymore. But to answer that, I think you know what, I think at first that was a problem for me. I think that you were kind of just, like, you didn't get easily excited. But I started finding things that you were, like, passionate about and that you did want to do, and it was interesting trying to get to know those things and more about you, And because you're not one of those really outgoing people, it was like a challenge for me to dig and try to help you to have a good time places, and, try to get you excited about things. And that it's funny because I think where we actually really connected is with our spirituality, because
He was really mad at me.
I was a Christian. I've been a Christian since we were both born and raised Catholic, and did the whole baptism, first communion, confirmation, all that kind of stuff. We both did that, and later in life I ended up finding Christ as my Savior and becoming, like, what you call a born-again Christian, or just a regular Christian. All Christians, by the way, are born-again Christians. But, and I had that in my background, and one day she shared it on Facebook, before she shared it with me that she had like an experience, and I was a little like upset that she didn't share that with me first. Felt like that was a big thing.
But I didn't really understand it, so I didn't think it was as big a thing. Like, I carried it around for a while, and then I posted about how I had this experience, and he looked at me. He's like, babe, you got saved. And you told Facebook before you told me. But I didn't really, like, you can only get saved once. But in my brain, I got saved twice, just in case, because I still wasn't real sure, like, what happened that night. Like, I was alone in my car, and I remember driving home from work, and the sunroof was open at night, and I remember looking up at the stars, and I remember throwing up my hands and saying, I give up, I'm yours, do with me what you will. And I had this conversation, and when I told him about it, he's like, you got saved. And I was like, so like taken back by that. And that's why I guess I didn't really tell him, because I didn't get it.
But it more than being upset about it, it excited me, because I had, I didn't turn my back on that. Well, I kind of did. Like, I lived in that world when I got saved back in 1995. Sorry, I lived that way under and went to a Bible, what they termed as a Bible boot camp, where I had like 5 Bible studies a day. I joined a men's gospel choir. I lived and worked there for a year until I graduated. I traveled all over the country with their men's gospel choir and gave my testimony and sang in front of churches, and it was probably the best year of my life. At that point. And then when I left, I went from all that structure to nothing at all, and so I kind of fell away. And so when she told me that, I said, well, listen, I've got the training, you know what I'm saying? Let's do this. Let's start living that way. Like, it kind of just came like God spoke to us, and, this is what I want for you guys as husband and wife, And so right away we started going to church, and we've never stopped. I mean, we went to one church for a little over a year, and we found it was a little too overbearing and legalistic for us. And we found another church, and we've been there. We're in our 3rd year there now, and we love it. We absolutely love it. We love the people in the church, and I think that's what helped us really connect. Because then every day we were talking about Christ, and we were watching. I turned around to this one preacher that I like, and she'd come home from work in her car, and she'd be crying. I'm like, "What are you crying about?" I think she was sad. She's like, "No, I was just listening to Phil Kidd."
Have you heard Dr. Kidd's story? Like, I came home, I was obsessed. Like, I watched every sermon that Dr. Kidd had over and over and over again. Like, if I hadn't been saved, I would have thrown myself up at the front of that church, and I would have got saved by Dr. Kidd in a minute, because he definitely convicted me.
And we actually made a trip. He's an evangelist, and that's where I met him. I met him when I was with that gospel choir. In 95, we backed him up singing at a like a revival or a tent meeting or something like that. In down south, and loved how he preached, and he's just very charismatic, and
I always say he's not for everyone.
He's definitely not for everyone.
But if you can handle somebody who's gonna give it to you straight, and maybe stand on the pulpit while he does it, screaming, and maybe throwing his suit jacket off, you'll love him. Like, I appreciate that about him. I appreciate the passion. Like, he's definitely a man of God, and he changed my life.
And so we actually went down. We drove 11 and a half hours each way to Tennessee. It was like a 3-day trip. And we went down there and spent 3-4 days, and we went there first and spent the night and watched him preach, and she couldn't believe it, because he was like he's kind of a celebrity in those circles. He's
in my brain, he's famous.
He is in those circles, and but he actually pastors a small church in the hills of Tennessee. You know, where you would expect he would be, but you would think he'd be in this church that was like 50,000 people, and it's not. You know, although his church is very excitable and they know what they got there. They got a treasure. And when we got there, I was telling the church members how I knew him, and they brought me down to his office, and he was like, "Oh, thank God, you know, I'm so glad to see you and stuff." And he's like, afterwards, you know, we'll go to lunch. And when I came up and I told my wife, I'm like, yeah,
I was like, did you see him? He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to lunch.
We're going to lunch afterwards.
And
I
I'm
played
like,
it real cool. She's like, yeah, real funny. And I'm like, no, we are. I don't think she believed it until afterwards. She didn't. I know she didn't. She's like, and afterwards he's like, you know, we'll go in a minute or whatever. She's like, we're really going to lunch. And him and his wife took me and her to lunch, and went and had Mexican food and spent about an hour talking to him, and it was just...
And he counseled us during that lunch.
He absolutely did.
Because he asked when Jeff was going to make it right. He you know, asked about our relationship, and Jeff had said at this point we were living together. You know, he's like, you're living together, and he's like, when are you going to make it right? And, you know, he really kind of called us on the carpet.
For those of you who don't know, and I know not that this is everybody's business, but when we decided we were going to live that way, we tried living as Christians. And we decided that we were going to go... We had over a year until we were going to get married. And we had already, you know, been with each other. And at that, we didn't anymore.
They reference it as split the sheets.
They call it splitting the sheets in the church, and we split the sheets. That's not an easy thing to do. Not at all. You're laying to somebody. I wouldn't... To any of you who are Christians out there, and if you are not married, I would recommend not living together until you are married, because it's a hard thing to do.
You know, clearly we justified it. We weren't living for Christ when we decided to make that decision, and then we were in a position where this is our home now. This is what we have to do.
Right. It wasn't like either one of us could afford to live on our own or whatever at the time.
What I loved about Dr. Kidd was he understood that, but said, what are your plans to correct that? You know, if you're in this relationship and it's that serious, what are your plans? You know, our previous pastor, who I have a lot of respect for, pretty much said we were liars, you know.
No, he said, I don't believe you. But if that was true, he wouldn't marry us. He wouldn't marry... Not only would he not marry us...
But not because we were living together, but because I was divorced.
You know, and the guy who did marry us... let's just say we weren't happy with it, but it was at the last... You know, at first he seemed like he was going to be okay. And then like a week before the wedding... Not like a week before the wedding, he asked us, so are you planning to have alcohol at your reception or whatever? And we told him, well, yeah, not everybody at our reception is a Christian. And by the way, the Bible doesn't say anything about alcohol, except it tells you not to be a drunkard. It does talk about... You know, obviously they don't want you to be drunk, and the Bible tells you that, you know. But it does reference alcohol in different ways. You know, it says if your neighbor is heavy of heart, give him the strong wine. Like it does reference alcohol, obviously not to abuse it. So, you know, anybody who tells you that, well, they're just talking about the stuff in the Bible was actually just grape juice, that's not true. Noah fermented alcohol on the ark. There's plenty of you know, knowledge and education to back that up, but we decided we're going to have alcohol, and he said, well, I don't know if I'm going to perform the ceremony then. So and Melissa I
got a little firm, and I said, you know what, if you don't want to perform my wedding ceremony, I don't want you to perform my wedding ceremony. So he had made the decision. I think we're getting a little too long-winded about going back to the question. We should get back to the questions. But you know, he had made the decision that he would just not stay for dinner. He would perform the ceremony and hit the road. And that's what happened. And he couldn't remember my name the whole time.
He mispronounced her, or not mispronounced. He called her by the wrong name 3 times during the ceremony. He's not.
My mom was going to kill him.
He's not on our favorite person's list. All right. By the way, you know, most of these episodes have been about an hour long. Now they're going to be in the 30 to 40 minute range. So there's going to be a second part to this, just so you know. Going to be out more than once a week. I'm going to try to get it down to a certain day, certain days that I'm going to upload. We've had some issues with just a bunch of different issues that have forbid that so far. So, all right. So, when you found out that you were when you realized that you were in love with me and that we were going to make a life together, how did you approach your family and friends about that? And did they ask you anything about, or did any of them say, I don't think you should, or what was the response to that?
Yeah, I mean, no one was. Like I said, at this point, my family knows everything, and there's a lot of what this channel's about. A lot of the stories you may have heard may have happened prior to marriage, and there's a lot of stories you haven't heard that happened prior to marriage, and a lot of things that my family might have known, and a lot of things that they might not have known. But the stuff that they did know made them very trepidatious and encouraged me to really think about this decision before I made it. I'd be lying if I said anybody was super excited.
I had met, obviously I had met her mom and her dad, and her stepfather, who is, you know, really her dad. I had met them, and we actually formed a great relationship, you know, right off the bat. And like she said, they didn't know right off the bat everything about me. They had known some, but very little, you know. But me and her mom had a great relationship. Like, we would actually go out to lunch together without Melissa sometimes, and go shopping and do some things together. And I'd call her and ask her, you know, her opinion on stuff, you know, what should I do for Melissa? I want to make her dinner or something. What should I get her? Stuff like that. And her stepdad, you know, we had a good relationship. You know, she would actually say that I was worried. Well, was he really that way when I wasn't there? And she would say, man, he's your number one supporter and stuff like that. And so when the time came, I'm old fashioned, you know, so I asked his permission to ask her to marry me, and he didn't just come out and just say yes. He asked me a bunch of questions, you know, and I had to assure him that that I would do everything in my power to make Melissa the happiest that she could possibly be. And I think he took my word for that, and he gave me what he calls his permission. And, you know, so we did things the right way and decently and in order, and went ahead and got married. We're going to wrap this part up right here. It's already been over a half an hour, and next episode is actually going to get into the good stuff about.
Yeah, he told me I was going to get all emotional and stuff. These were all about, like,
yeah,
he just wanted to hear how, like, amazing I thought he was in the beginning.
Not at all. I was actually worried about how other people thought about me, and I was perceived outside of her. And to see if she would say I was amazing. But that ain't happening with Melissa, if you know her.
I'm trying.
Yeah, dry broad.
Dry broad.
That's an inside joke.
It'll be another story for another day.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be it for episode 8, part 1.
At some point, we're going to stop counting the episodes because there's going to be too many. We're going to be on episode 4,267.
Maybe. I mean, it's not. We're not planning on going to like episode 25 and stopping. This is gonna keep going and growing. I'm hoping. So, please, please remember to hit that subscribe button. A lot of people aren't doing that. I'm getting hundreds of views and still got only so many subscribers. So it doesn't cost you anything. I know I don't say it very often, but please hit the thumbs up, the like button, and the subscribe button. It helps me because more people, like YouTube pushes it to more people and like suggests it to more people when you like it. And the more subscribers I get, we can make the show better and better and better. And maybe we'll move out of this cell and actually get into
Double?
to have a double cell. Instead of a 6x9, we'll have a 12x18 maybe.
He's already trying to get separate beds like Ricky and Lucy.
No, we'll sew them together. I'm sure you'll find a way. But that's it for today. Thank you guys. Thanks for all the support. Please, if anybody needs help with any kind of problem, if they've got an addiction issue that they're fighting, please send them to the Dry Snitch episodes. Especially episode 7. Where I really get into if somebody really needs some help, and if they can't find help and they really want it, you can always leave a comment, and I will reach out myself and try to help that person. I'm doing it with others already, so I don't mind doing it. There is help out there. I don't get anything from that, but satisfaction. I want to help people. I live this life, and it did a lot of hurt and damage, and I'd like to try to counteract some of that with doing some good for some people. So
a lot of knowledge came from that life too.
Yeah, learned a lot from that. So if anybody can learn and not have to go through it themselves, that's the whole point. So thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Pretty soon they're going to be calling. The guards are coming for us now. I'm pretty sure. So in a second they'll be calling. So he's calling. I know he is. He's gonna. There he goes. Sorry, guys. Thanks. Have a great night. Bye.